Life Forms of Boundaries, a Trans Ecology. Footnote 1. The phrase life forms of boundaries comes from Carolina's former mentor, a cis man. As trans and queer people are wont to do, I instead occlude this transmission and attribute the meaning and trans inflection of this phrase to Carolina, to our friendship and work partnership. She said this phrase the first time we met, mere instances before she caught a falling leaf off an autumn tree in Davis, an auspicious moment, her first caught leaf since moving from Georgia. In What Is It Like to Be a Human, Claire Colbrook correlates transness with the origin of all life. Quote, I want to argue that in the beginning is trans, that what is original or primary is a not yet differentiated singularity from which distinct genders, race, species, sexes, and sexualities are generated in a form of relative stability, end quote. Transness, that friction of boundaries and categories jutting up against one another, produces life. I have no doubt this mentor of Carolina's never imagined or anticipated such a phrase becoming a beacon of recognition for trans folks. In its co-opted framework, the phrase identifies the significance of transness, of its primordial and primary presence, and its necessity to the evolution of life itself. I thank Carolina for this language of my own making. Exhibit 12, Whale Fall Stage 1. Caroline and I come across a rust yellowing white spinal column covered in debris and sediments, bare of any skin traces in an estuary. That's a whale spine, she points out. In fresh water, she continues. Though a novice of ecology, I understand the novelty of the find, but I'm only able to blurt out how to get here. Like a couple of detectives, we follow a damp path of sand where the salt waters of Salmon Creek Beach and the fresh water from the estuary meet, mingle, and touch, but neither fully succumb to each other. When these liquids encounter one another, they form brackish waters that flow both ways, to and from the ocean, to and from the estuary. This path is the culprit, the reason for the spinal column. Only several days earlier, Bodega Bay had a completely normal winter rainstorm. It was windful and boisterous, the rain pummeling the sand faster than it could absorb the moisture, creating an overflow of the estuary, a temporary floodplain where, for a brief moment, these two bodies of water touched and their traces traveled betwixt them. Whale Fall Stage 2. Next to the massive spinal column are thick rolls of whale fat and blubber. They look like dirty, old, folded over gym mats. Carolina is my guide, showing me around Bodega Bay, giving me a crash course in marine and coastal ecology. The whale's ghostly presence animates a new concept for Carolina to mention. She calls it a whale fall. As a sometimes snobbish English literature graduate student and an always overly romantic Libra, I prodded for the technical term, like asking for the species name that no one other than ecologists and taxonomists are obligated to recall. She shook her head. Whale fall is the ecological term. Whale fall stage 3. A whale fall is a gorgeous and revelatory misnomer. It names the process of a whale's death, but decenters the individual's demise and instead centers a story of animacy, of liveliness, of cooperation, of decay as a queer form of repurposing and reproducing. The word fall actually refers to the whale's body, as in the cold temperatures of the abyssal zone, the deep ocean, which is barren of life, slows decomposition, allowing a whale fall to remain mostly intact as it sinks to deeper depths until it sinks to the bottom of the seafloor. A whale fall brings life and makes life where there previously was none. They create new, complex, localized ecosystems that can sustain life for decades and decades. None of the whale goes to waste. Its entire biomass provides nutrients to a variety of organisms, ensuring and extending their survival. The self is reproduction through decay and decomposition, through sharing one's body that is no longer needed as nutrients. What a weirdly maternal process that has absolutely nothing to do with gender and yet still everything to do with the body. I don't tell Carolina this, but I consider a whale fall as a kind of motherhood, one that makes sense to me. Motherhood is an experience that I'm resolutely confident I will never have in a traditional, or better yet, a biologically essentialist sense. As a not girl, I still have a womb and a uterus, or these parts that have been named by limiting patriarchal others that are not myself. And still, I have no desire in scientifically, nor do I anticipate organically finding my way to pregnancy. However, I am fascinated by the idea that the body becomes an ecosystem that can support another life, another organism through its skin, its fat, its various nutrients. This kind of motherhood, though, appears to almost inevitably breed resentment and guilt and exhaustion between a mother organism and a child organism. The whale fall supports life that it has no control over. The fall does not pick and choose who is deserving or undeserving. The fall cannot guilt, gaslight, manipulate, or punish of its own agency. I framed this revelation as morbid before telling my therapist that a whale fall makes me think about my upcoming top surgery. What a waste, I say. I wonder where the fat, partial areolas, and the skin of my former chest go after the plastic surgeon removes them from me, separates myself from myself, probably into some biohazard bin. But after that, where? I don't have an answer yet, but I'm determined to ask my surgeon. In the meantime, I imagine the blade that will excise old maladaptive parts of myself, ones that I never wanted, but were probably an evolutionary holdover that I, as a boy, no longer need. I imagine their fall in hope somewhere down the line. Their decay animates new organisms and new species. Keep life enduring, even if that skin, that fat, those parts only serve to be my tombstones. Whale fall stage 4. The fall is a grief act of giving fully until that originary self no longer remains, having become with and of those still surviving, those still hungry. Transness is a fall, not a death.